My name is Evelyn Yeager and I'm 33. One October night, I was standing in my kitchen in Colorado waiting for a kettle to boil when the phone I'd kept quiet for 6 years began to light up and would not stop. For 6 years my family never called me. Not on my birthday, not once. Then in a single hour my sister and my mother and people I hadn't spoken to since I was 27 called me 89 times. They didn't call when I was drowning. They called when I could swim. But the calls weren't the strange part. The strange part was what my sister found the hour before they started, and what I did after. Here is what I was doing that October before any phone rang. I was sitting on the edge of a stranger's bed at 2 in the afternoon, holding a dying man's hand so he wouldn't be alone when his breathing changed. I'm a hospice nurse. I work the hard hours, the last ones, the ones most people never see. In the corner stood Jenna, 24, my student that season, watching me the way I once wished someone would watch me. Like I knew something worth learning. I did. I knew how to make a bad ending gentler. A month earlier, the state had given me an award for a hospice program I'd built for rural counties where people used to die 2 hours from the nearest nurse. There was a photo of me in a newspaper. At home there was Adam, a quiet apartment, and a life I had built board by board with my own 2 hands. I had made myself in 6 years into the person families lean on when the worst thing is happening. I let strangers lean their whole weight on me and never once buckled. I just never let it be my own family again. That October someone was about to test it. 6 years is a long time to hear nothing. When you go no contact, people imagine a fight, a slammed door. Mine was silence, and silence is worse because it has no edges you can push against. My birthday came and went 6 times and my phone stayed dark. The one that still catches in my throat is different though. 2 years ago I lost a pregnancy, my first. 10 weeks along, and then I wasn't. I texted my mother one line. That I'd lost the baby. She read it. She never wrote back. Not that day, not ever. That's when I understood the silence wasn't an accident. It was the message. You left so you don't get to be one of us when it hurts. After that I stopped hoping. I had grieved them like you grieve the living, which is the loneliest grief there is. To understand why I left, you'd have to sit at our kitchen table when I was a kid. My father, Wade, was an electrician who believed feelings were a luxury for people who hadn't worked a real day. My mother, Marlene, kept the peace by keeping score. And me, I was the one who could handle things. Not the pretty one, not the smart one. The one who could handle it. I paid the light bill at 16. At 19, I drove my father to a clinic to dry out and sat in the parking lot for 6 hours. My sister, Colleen, 3 years older, got to just be a person in that house. I was the one things were needed from. It took me years of therapy to admit. I liked it because being useful was the only currency that ever bought a kind word in that house. Love came with a job description and the job was mine. The thing that finally broke it was a loan. 6 years ago my father lost his union job. And the family plan, decided without me in the room, was that I would co-sign a large loan against the house and defer my nursing program to move home and manage things. I was 27, and the program was the first thing in my life that was only mine. I said no, quietly, and I remember the exact temperature of the silence that followed. Colleen said, "After everything this family did for you." Within a week the story had set like concrete. Evelyn is selfish. Evelyn abandoned her parents to go play nurse. I didn't fight the story. I left without drama and stayed gone. No doors slammed. I just stopped answering, moved 1,000 miles away, and let the silence they'd taught me work in both directions for once. A screaming daughter is still yours. A calm one who simply walks out has decided you're not worth the fight. I decided that at 27. It took me until this October to find out if I still believed it. The first thing that came was not a call. It was a text from Colleen, a number I'd unblocked in some weak-hearted week and never blocked again. No hi. No how are you. Just a link, blue and cold, sitting there like a summons. I didn't open it right away. While I was looking at it, I checked the old family group chat I'd muted years ago but never left. It was going off. Dozens of messages stacked in 20 minutes, the dots blinking. And then as I watched it stopped. All at once. A chat that had been boiling went dead silent mid-sentence, like a room where someone had just walked in and made everyone shut their mouths. Adam came in because I'd let the kettle scream. Who is it? My sister. He didn't say anything cheerful, just leaned against the counter and waited. I had a strange, clear thought. Whatever was on the other end of that link had weight, and if I picked it up, it would try to become mine to carry. That's how it always worked. I put the phone face down. I lasted about 9 minutes. The link went to a regional newspaper's article about my hospice program. My face in scrubs staring back at me from my sister's message. She hadn't written a word. She didn't need to. Colleen hadn't gone looking for me because she missed me. She'd found a resource, a hospice nurse, an award winner, a steady paycheck. Whatever was happening back home, they had a problem, and they just discovered the daughter they'd erased was conveniently the solution. That's why the group chat went silent, all of them at once rewriting me from villain into asset. You cannot call a woman a failure while looking at her award. I set the phone down. Then it began to ring. Not a text, a call, then another stacking behind it. I did not answer. I watched the counter climb past a dozen, past 30, past 50. Adam finally said, "Evie, what is going on?" "I don't know yet." 89 times my phone rang in that hour, and not one of them in a single voicemail led with why. Not one said, "We're so sorry, we've missed you." The calls were a demand arriving early, insistent, entitled, "The way you pound on a door you're sure should open for you." I finally turned the ringer off. One voicemail sat on top from my mother. That one I would listen to. Her voice came out older than I remembered, wet at the edges. My father had cancer, pancreatic, found late, the counting already down to weeks. That landed somewhere deep and old in me. But it was the next part that told me exactly where I stood 6 years and one diagnosis later. My mother did not say "we want you home," or "he's asking for you," or "we were wrong." What she said, sliding from grief into something practical, was, "You're a hospice nurse now, honey. You know what to do. You need to come home and handle this." Handle it. The oldest word in my whole life. They didn't want their daughter back. They'd found a nurse, a free one, who happened to share their last name. Adam was watching my face. What do they want? They want me to work my father's death for free. And the awful thing was, some part of me already wanted to go. When Colleen called next, I picked up. No hello, she came out swinging. "You're alive. Nice of you to pick up. 6 years, and it takes Dad dying to get you on the phone." Behind her voice I could hear a suction machine, a hospital bed motor. She'd been in that room for weeks. Into my silence she dropped the sentence that was really the whole war between us. "Family isn't something you get to quit." I understood, standing there. This was not a reconciliation. Nobody had spent this month missing me. They'd spent it drowning and found a life raft with my face on it. "I need to think," I said. She laughed, bitter. "Think. Right. He doesn't have time for you to think." And she hung up. That night I said no to the pull, to the reflex trained into me since I was small. If I got on a plane out of guilt, I would be proving the whole ugly thesis of my childhood true. Adam held my hand. "You don't owe them your body and your job and your peace." I knew that in my head. Feeling it in the part of me trained since birth was a different country entirely. Because here's what kept me up that night. I know exactly what a bad death looks like. A house where nobody knows the difference between agitation and the medicine wearing off. Nobody knows to turn the lights down near the end. I could hang up on my sister. I could not hang up on what I knew. Lying in the dark, I saw 2 roads. In one, I stayed away and he died in a loud, frightened house while Colleen broke herself against a job she didn't know how to do. In the other I went, and I hated how easily I could picture it because I recognized the feeling underneath. It wasn't only love. It was the old reflex that couldn't tell the difference between being useful and being loved. The real danger wasn't the plane ticket. The real danger was going back as her, the girl who couldn't say no. So I made a decision with my eyes open. I booked a flight, a round trip with the return date chosen on purpose. 19 days out. I printed the physical boarding pass, folded it, and put it in the inside pocket of my coat, over my chest where I could feel the edge of it. To me it was a sentence I couldn't argue with. I am coming as a nurse and nurses go home. I told Adam, if they try to make me cancel this flight, that's how I'll know I was right to leave in the first place. They don't want me. They want the nurse who'll never leave. This ticket is the one thing they can't stand because it has an ending on it. Watch. They'll go for it. I had no idea how right I'd be. I flew back 2 days later. Somewhere over Kansas, I put my hand on my coat and said, quiet enough that the man next to me couldn't hear, They didn't call when I was drowning. They called when I could swim. My plan was simple. Treat this like any other case. Wade was the patient. Marlene and Colleen were the family. Difficult, but I've handled difficult. 19 days, then home without losing an inch of myself. It works beautifully on strangers. I was about to find out it doesn't hold on your own blood. Colleen picked me up at the airport with a long performed hug. Before we were even out of the parking garage, the briefing began. Logistics, not how are you. Mom's a wreck. I put you in your old room. Figured that made sense since you'll be here a while. I noticed that. She had my 19 days rounded up to a while before I'd set down my bag. The house was exactly the same, its own kind of violence, how a place can stay identical while it wrecked you. My mother came out, smaller than I remembered, took my face in both hands and cried. For 1 second it was almost what a homecoming is supposed to be. Then, still holding my face, she said it. Evie, thank God. Can you move back? I can't do this anymore. Not I've missed you. Not I'm sorry. The ask before I'd even taken off my coat. I opened the door to the front room. My father, who I'd last seen refusing to look at me, was gone, in his place in a rented hospital bed. A small yellow man drowning slowly in his own body. His eyes moved to me. I let myself hope the first thing he'd say after 6 years would be something, anything. My name even. What he said was, you came. Good. Your sister's been doing it wrong. That was the reunion. I was not a daughter who'd come home. I was a competent person who'd finally shown up to fix the incompetent work of the others. My hands moved anyway, below thought, the way my trade has trained them to. I took his wrist, felt his pulse thready too fast, his skin papery and cool. And I knew I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. So I went to work. Within an hour I'd found his pain medication was scheduled all wrong, big gaps where the dose wore off and left him climbing the walls, which is why Colleen had been fighting a frightened man for a week, thinking that was just how dying looked. I fixed it. I showed Colleen how to turn him, swab his mouth, read his face for pain. By that night the room was quieter than it had been in weeks. He slept. My mother cried, watching him rest. I let myself feel for 10 minutes the clean good feeling of having made a terrible thing a little less terrible. 10 minutes. Then it curdled into appetite. See, my mother said to Colleen. Only Evelyn can do this. Then to me, no gap at all. So you'll stay. We can't do this without you now. My skill wasn't a gift. It was evidence entered against me. The better I was, the tighter the trap. The next morning my mother handed me a folder, medical bills, past due, and a form tabbed with a sticky arrow, making me financially responsible for his care. Colleen already quit her job. We need someone with a good steady job, honey. Someone reliable. And there on the refrigerator was my award-winning newspaper article, printed out and pinned like a price tag. A resume stuck to the fridge to remind everyone what the asset was worth. Picked up the pen. Then I picked up the folder and read it slowly, line by line. My mother watched, nervous. In that family nobody read things, you just signed where the arrow pointed. I set the pen down. I'm going to take care of him. I'll do it for free with my own 2 hands, for as long as he has. That's a gift and I'm choosing to give it. But I'm not signing this. I'm not taking on the debt. I'm not moving back. I will care for him. I will not be billed for him. The room went very still. I watched my mother recalculate, watched the machine start hunting for a new grip. Colleen found it in my coat. That evening she stood at the bottom of the stairs holding my boarding pass, unfolded, her face gone flat and hard. You bought a ticket home? That is my home. I'm flying back on the 19th. And the whole house came for the ticket, exactly like I told Adam they would. He's dying and you've got a plane ticket in your pocket like you can't wait to leave. I took the pass from her gently, folded it back along its creases, and put it back over my chest. Something settled in me, cold and clear, almost like peace. They had done exactly what I'd predicted. That's how I knew I'd been right to leave. That night I found Colleen crying by the washing machine, really crying this time. You have no idea what these months have been. I quit my whole life. I do everything and nobody's ever going to write a newspaper article about me. I've been just here drowning in it, while you got to run away and be a hero for total strangers. She wasn't wrong. She was me if I'd never gotten on that first plane 6 years ago. For 1 full minute we were almost sisters again. Then she wiped her face. and the softness closed over like water over a stone. "So you owe me. Sign the papers." And she was the machine again too. On the 16th day, my father started to go. I knew the signs before anyone else, the mottling, the changing breath. I also knew there was likely one more window left, a last stretch of lucidity. So I told them, "It's close. If there's anything anyone wants to say to him, it needs to be soon." I watched them gather and admitted to myself the thing I'd been hiding from since the airport. I wanted the window too. Not for the family. For me. Hating that I was still hoping in his last clear hour, my father would finally say he was sorry. The window opened the next afternoon. His eyes traveled the room and landed on me in my corner, both nurse and daughter at once. He wet his lips. I stopped breathing. "Stay," he said. "Move back home. Take care of your mother when I'm gone. You're the strong one, Evelyn. It's what you're for. It's what you're for. Not who you are." Even here, with everything else stripped away, the truest thing he could find to say was a job assignment, offered almost tenderly, like a crown and not a yoke. He genuinely did not know the difference. And I understood, clear as a struck bell. There had never been going to be an apology. In their language, "come home and be useful" was the closest to "I love you" that family had ever learned to say. My mother took it as her cue. Colleen slid the folder across the blanket, pen on top. "It's his last wish. Just sign it." There was the whole choice laid across a dying man's blanket. On one side, the thing I'd wanted my whole life, a place in this family. All I had to do was pick up the pen. On the other, everything I'd built, and the knowledge that signing would prove the whole ugly thesis of my childhood true. I did not pick up the pen. I put my hand over my father's instead and said, quietly, to him and the whole braced room, "You're right. Family isn't something I get to quit. But love isn't something you get to bill me for." And then I did the only thing that was ever really mine to give. I nursed him, checked his pulse, lowered my mother's voice, turned the lamp down, gave him the medicine at the right time in the right dose, and held his hand through the long slow hours as the window closed and his breathing gentled and, near midnight, stopped. I gave my father a good death with my own 2 hands freely because I chose to. And in the same hour, holding his cooling hand, I let go of the apology that was never going to come. The house filled with the sounds of a family closing ranks around a death and already around the questions after it. I felt the current reach for me, the assumption that of course I would stay now. I stood up, straightened his blanket, took my coat off the hook and took out the boarding pass. 2 days away. Colleen blocked the doorway. "You're leaving? Now?" I said the truest thing I had. I came to give him a good death. I did that. The rest was never mine to fix. I stepped past her through the door, out the same screen door I'd sworn I'd never walk through again. This time I was walking the other way. 2 days later I flew home, the fields giving way to mountains. Somewhere over Kansas, with the boarding pass finally used and worthless in my pocket, I understood what I'd flown 1,000 miles and lived 6 years to learn. Leaving at 27 hadn't made me free, not really. I'd spent 6 years still defining myself against them, still turning like a planet around a dead star. What happened in that front room was different. I gave everything I had to a man who never said he was sorry because I chose to. Then I left because I chose to. Neither the giving nor the leaving was about what I owed or was owed. That was the first genuinely free thing I'd ever done. I cried quietly over Kansas for my father, and for the girl who spent 33 years believing love was something you had to earn. I'm home now in Colorado. I still work the last hours, the hard ones. Last week I stood behind Jenna while she held a dying woman's hand and did it right, all of it because I taught her how. I thought, that's the chain going the other direction for once. I spent my childhood learning love was a job you could be fired from. Jenna's learning you can give everything to a person and still keep yourself. Colleen still texts every few weeks, the estate, the funeral costs, and now it's mom getting older, someone reliable should really. The word "oh" still shows up, worn smooth from handling. The machine didn't die when my father died. It just turned, looking for the next one to run on. But here's what changed, the only thing that had to. I answer Colleen on my terms now, or I don't answer at all. The phone doesn't own me anymore. They didn't call when I was drowning. They called when I could swim. It took me 33 years and a deathbed to stop needing the water at all, to stop needing to be drowning or saving someone or useful or needed. Just to believe I was worth keeping alive. Adam asked me the other night if I regret going back. I thought about my father's cold hand warming under mine, the good death I gave him because I wanted to and not because I owed it. No, I said. I don't regret it. I finally know the difference now. You can love someone all the way to their last breath and still refuse to be the debt they never meant to let you pay.